Hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to the Bay Area restaurant scene with a shot at a local legend here in the Bay Area, which is the garlic miso fried chicken karaage from Aburaya in Oakland, California. Those local to the area will know that there are a handful of popular fried chicken spots that have popped up in the neighborhood most recently, some doing Nashville hot wings, others doing chicken sandos, and pretty much everything in between. But by far one of my favorites though is Aburaya's take on a classic Japanese chicken karaage, which features a dry seasoning of garlic and miso powder, as well as a side of herb aioli, which we'll do our very best to try and recreate today. For those who are unfamiliar, a chicken karaage classically features a potato starch breading and chicken thigh to create a unique craggily and crunchy breading which is absolutely iconic to the dish. Most typically, you will see chicken karaage done in a popcorn chicken styled serving with large diced pieces of chicken, making it great as an appetizer for snacking. Some may recall that we did a more traditional popcorn chicken karaage a few weeks back, which we will absolutely be borrowing from today. For me though, what really stands out in this particular chicken karaage is the use of these dried seasonings, in particular our miso and dashi powders. Timing is going to be really key with these dry seasonings today, not only because it's going to be a big part of how we get them to stick to the fried chicken, but also because as the chicken cools, they will start to rehydrate, turning them back into a wonderfully thick, almost glaze-like texture, which is really some kind of strange magic. Okay, so let's get into it.
Raindrops on roses, whiskers on kittens, cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Okay, so diving right in, we're kicking things off here first today with our very best effort at recreating Aburaya's herb aioli, which is gonna start off with 4 cloves of garlic crushed to release their allicin. Then next are 2 egg yolks that I'm separating from their whites and adding to my very smallest blender, which is going to help the blades of the blender catch things nicely. Anything larger here and the small quantity of ingredients that we're using today is going to cause our larger blenders to just sort of spin endlessly without catching anything. Going in next is a tablespoon of honey, followed by a squeeze of lemon juice to round things out with some nice citrus and acidity. Then last up going in here are my 4 cloves of garlic, and we're blending this bad boy until a smooth liquid forms. Now, if you've got a food processor or a blender with a feed tube on it, what you could do at this point is very gradually start streaming in half a cup of olive oil while leaving the blender or food processor running. Since my food processor is out of commission today though, what I'm doing here instead is adding this to a mixing bowl set on top of a clean dish towel to keep it from traveling, then gradually whisking in half a cup of olive oil instead. The operative word here today is gradually, because if you add that oil in too quickly, it'll cause the fats to break and separate, and you'll just end up with a layer of oil on top of your egg yolks, which is not what we're after here. Once this is fully combined, I'm adding it back to my blender, then blitzing it one last time until this thick and creamy aioli forms. Then finally, I'm rounding this off with 2 tablespoons of dried thyme and a pinch of kosher salt to taste. Last up, I'm slicing up a 1/4 head of Taiwanese cabbage here for our garnish later on for a nice crispy veggie addition, and we're moving on to our chicken. Moving on to our chicken next, today we're going with chicken thighs for their shape on the plate, but a butterflied chicken breast will also work just fine as well if that's what you've got. We're getting to work on our chicken marinade here first. This is 4 cloves of crushed and minced garlic going in, taking some extra care today to really get that fine mince on our garlic because we don't want large chunks of garlic floating around in our breading later on. Then next, moving on to the liquids of our marinade, this is 4 tablespoons of soy sauce and a single tablespoon of Japanese mirin for our acidity. And then in a separate bowl, this is 1 tablespoon of miso paste that I'm dissolving in water before combining with our chicken. This stuff, as the name implies, is very pasty, so we want this to break down into a slurry before combining with the marinade, or else it will just sort of sink to the bottom of the bowl. I'm letting this marinate for 30 minutes or up to 1 hour, and then removing to a larger bowl, and then tossing into an initial 1/3 cup of potato starch before removing and dredging into an additional layer of even more potato starch. We're doing a double breading today, not only because potato starch is very thin and won't get too bready with this double layer, but also because to my taste, this potato starch breading is the element that sets a chicken karaage apart from every other kind of fried chicken due to the craggily texture that it creates in the fry. It is a little bit of extra work, but you will notice that that initial potato starch coating has started to clump up into the craggily bits that will fry up later on. Over on the stove, I have my fryer heating up to 350 degrees F. Then I'm adding in my chicken 2 pieces at a time for our double fry here, which we have not done in a little while. We're doing a brief 2-minute fry here to cook off any residual moisture left behind with our chicken, then removing, setting aside, and letting this rest for 5 minutes while our fryer oil reheats. Then we're adding our chicken back to the fryer for a second and final fry for about 5 minutes until deeply golden brown and 160 degrees F internally. Those that have followed this series in the past know that on occasion I'll skip this double fry process with drier batters where there isn't very much liquid present to fry off in that initial first fry, and since this does take some extra time, you might be able to save some time here, but in our ongoing mission to create the crispiest possible piece of fried chicken, this is the way. Back over on the cutting board, I've removed my chicken from heat, then I'm immediately tossing this in a pinch each of garlic powder, miso powder, and dried dashi powder. As always with any dry seasoning, we want to do this right out of the fryer while that chicken is still sizzling hot before it cools down, because this is going to be our best opportunity to get that dry seasoning to stick. Once that chicken cools down, that powder is going to just sort of sift off into the bottom of the bowl, which is not very useful at all. Once these are nice and coated, I'm setting this aside to rest one more time for 5 minutes while we get our plate together. I'm starting off here with some damp hands to mold our rice here first, which is going to help keep that rice from sticking to them. Then on the side is a spoonful of my herb aioli, followed by my chicken karaage, a shake of furikake, then finally my Taiwanese cabbage, and we're ready to eat. Alright, so those following along will know that this is obviously not the first fried chicken recipe that we have done on this channel. To be absolutely honest, I've kind of lost count at this point, but it's got to be well over a dozen or so at this point. That said though, this is also truly one of the more unique pieces of fried chicken that I think we have ever created, due to the way that that dry rub comes together here. By using a dried miso powder instead of the more common miso paste, we skipped right over the glazing process, allowing for us to retain more of that dried, crispy quality that is iconic to chicken karaage. In addition to that though, as the miso powder starts to rehydrate, you'll notice that it has turned into more of a paste-like texture, or essentially miso paste. The result is the single most umami-packed bite of fried chicken that I have ever had, while simultaneously still retaining the crispy, craggly, and crunchy qualities that you would expect from a dry-seasoned piece of fried chicken. Think of it sort of like a Japanese-style Nashville fried chicken, or Nashville-style Japanese chicken karaage. I don't know. Then finally, our herb aioli is also the perfect subtle complement to pair with the whirlwind of flavors that come from our chicken, resulting in truly the best goddamn chicken karaage that I have truly ever created. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to dishes from the Bay Area restaurant scene, so definitely check out that series next if you haven't yet, because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, Aburaya is located in downtown Oakland with some of the best fried chicken in town, so definitely check them out next if you haven't yet. Also, if you are local here in the Bay, the Woo Can Cook Fried Rice Pop-Up is back at Federation Brewing in Oakland tonight, so come by and say hi if you can. More about that at woocancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon.